any public members here in attendance, but if we did, we have speakers cards you need to fill out. The cards are in the lobby or at the podium. So, and in consideration of tonight's meeting, please silence your phones, your electronic devices, so no interruptions during it. And please kind of refrain from speaking during the meeting. And again, this is a public meeting. My name is Richard Hansen. I'm the chair, and I will be presiding over the meeting this evening. So, Pat, do you want to lead us? No, we're going to do the roll call. So, Roxanne, you want to do the roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Thomas? Here. Commissioner Ceci?
Here.
Let the record show that Vice Chair Lammers has an excused absence and Chair Hansen.
Here.
And for the record, at this time, I would like to announce that on March 17th, Vice Chair Holmes submitted his resignation to the City Clerk's office. The City Clerk's staff reported this update at the March 25th Joint City Council meeting. The City Council has chosen to postpone recruitment to fill the unscheduled vacancy on the Water Commission, Office Number 3, until the annual recruitment process is conducted.
And that review process selection is in June?
It's currently in process, and we have extended the deadline until May 8th by noon.
Okay. All right. So we do have a quorum this evening, so we'll proceed. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance now. Pat, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Absolutely. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Does anybody have a need or desire to reorder the agenda? Bill, do you have any need to reorder? Okay. All right, moving on to the public comment period. This is the time when the public can address the commission. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once, both on and off agenda items. And I don't see any public in the audience. Have we received any correspondence that need to be read in, or?
We have not.
Okay. All right, so we've opened the public comment period. Now I'm going to close the public comment period. I'll ask for commissioners if they have any comments, reports they want to provide us with. Nothing? Don't see any. Bill, do you have any comments you want to?
We do have a couple of quick updates this evening, thank you. First, I want to let you know you probably don't see a very familiar face in the audience tonight with Jake Javera. Jake resigned. He had another opportunity, took on a fantastic opportunity a little bit closer to home, and worked out really well for him. So we are going to miss Jake. He was a huge part of the organization, and he was here about 1.5 years and had a massive impact on our operation of what we're doing. So we wish Jake the best of luck in his new opportunity, and I'm sure we'll stay in touch with him as best we can. So also wanted to let the commission know that we have hired a new assistant director for the water division. So Paul is here with us this evening. He actually hasn't started yet with the city, but he decided to come out and just say hi. So I won't call him up to the podium and embarrass him before he's even officially on the payroll, but his first day will be with Monday. So we're glad that Paul's here tonight, and happy to see what he'll be bringing to the division. So
I recognize Paul, and I know where he comes from, so
Yeah.
I know he'll do a great job for us.
thank you. And that's it.
Okay. Great. Consent calendar, we have one item on the consent calendar to affirm the January 23rd regular commission meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, very good. I'm looking to you, Roxanne, to, because we're going to wing this thing tonight.
Yep.
Okay, the first item we have is the, under unfinished business, is the Water Conservation Program update. And I'd like to have Senior Management Analyst Russell Ackerman is going to give us a report.
Good evening, Chair Hansen,
Thank-
Commissioners. Tonight, I'm here to present the Water Conservation Report for the third quarter. We'll start with our education and outreach efforts. Here you can see we've been promoting our workshops that we'll have throughout the year. This one was for our fire-safe landscaping. We also set up a table here during Fix a Week Leak, which is in March. It's the 17th through the 23rd. And we actually gave away over 100 bags filled with items to help you detect leaks. This is an annual event that we do in partnership with the EPA WaterSense program, and we recently renewed our partnership with them as well. This is a snapshot of Green Media's creations. This is our local vendor that puts on our workshops. Here they are presenting on the Firescape Landscaping class. This is the first workshop in a series this year. Through Three Valleys, we've actually been approved for MAP funding for all of these workshops. We held our 12th annual Water Awareness Poster Contest. We received over 145 submissions from kindergartens through 8th graders. City staff voted and winners have been selected. We invite the water commissioners to attend the May 13th City Council meeting where the winners will be announced. We also gave 3 presentations at Sellers Elementary this quarter, and we're partnering with Three Valleys to conduct more presentations here at local schools this spring. We continue our partnership with the Metropolitan Water District's SoCal Water Smart program. Eligible participants can receive up to $4 a square foot to remove and replace their lawn, and also can receive matching rebate funding for water-efficient devices like new washing machines or toilets. We still run our own water-efficient rebate program for items that aren't covered as part of the SoCal Water Gas program, and that would be pool covers and dishwashers. In February, we mailed out a flyer to announce our renewed partnership agreement with WaterWise Consulting. As a result, we've relaunched the Community Water Hero program, which is a program designed to assist commercial property customers save water. In addition, like in years past, for our residential customers, those that participate in the free indoor-outdoor water use survey may be eligible for minor irrigation repairs, free irrigation, smart irrigation clocks. And what's new this year is we've included free irrigation retrofits. So they'll actually come in, WaterWise will come in, assess your system in the survey, and make repairs to your system, help you with scheduling your clock, even install a new clock. But what's new this year is they would also install new water efficient nozzles on your sprinkler heads and do conversions to drip irrigation in certain areas where it makes sense around your property. So this is new. This is something that even if you've participated before, you can participate again. There is a limit as to the amount of labor and material for the repairs and whatnot, but we encourage everyone to take a look at this. The flyer was sent out in February. It's also on our website as well. WaterWise also, during this survey process, they also collect data that we will use for compliance with the urban water use objective that we're going to talk about later tonight. Moving on to water production comparisons from 24 to 25, it shows an overall increase of 24.79%, which may be due to a fire response, topping off the reservoirs, checking hydrants, hydrant flushing, as well as fixing leaks, and also a lack of rainfall. In fact, if we look at this year compared to last year, we have nearly half the amount of rainfall that we had. Okay, moving on to the urban water use objective. We have presented on this before, but just as a refresher, in 2018, SB 606 and AB 1668 were passed, and they were intended to make water conservation a California way of life by implementing a series of standards for water use for all urban retail water suppliers. The regulations were officially adopted last year. In total, there are 3 water use standards: an indoor residential, an outdoor residential, an outdoor commercial, industrial, and institutional. That's related to properties that have dedicated irrigation meters. There's 1 water loss standard, and then there are a variety of adjustments that are used to calculate each urban water supplier's overall budget. The sum of these is known as the urban water use objective. Adjustments to the urban water use objective can be made via variances, temporary provisions, and bonus incentives for potable reuse recycled water where applicable per supplier, but they must receive approval by submitting a request to the state board first. In addition to the objective, there are also other regulations required. Every urban retail supplier needs to comply with a set of CII performance measures, which are intended to enable water usage benchmarking for commercial, industrial, institutional properties, as well as establish best management practices for indoor and outdoor CII water use, regardless of whether or not they have a dedicated irrigation meter. So, annual reports are due January 1st of every year, but they're based on the previous fiscal year's water use. So we have submitted our first report for fiscal year 23-24. And for Glendora, it shows a reduction target of an additional 20.3% for that year's actual water use. In the last meeting, commissioners requested a comparison of local suppliers. The data shown on the next few slides was compiled by the California Water Efficiency Partnership, and it comes from publicly available data on the state's websites. It should be noted that these numbers are simply estimates and projections, as each supplier will make their own applicable adjustments unique to their service area, and those adjustments will change the numbers ultimately. It should also be noted that some urban retail water suppliers may serve multiple cities, and they may have different customer bases, or they might have access to recycled water, or they might be eligible for variances that Glendora isn't. So in short, it's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison. This slide shows the estimated reductions by January 1st, 2027. You'll see that the 47 gallons per capita is actually a reduction in that standard, which was at 55. So these numbers are based on how these standards are setting different urban water use reduction targets as those particular standards, whether for indoor or outdoor, as those change over time as they've been legislated. The reduction target for Glendora in this case would be projected to be at 28%. This slide shows the estimated reductions by January 1st, 2040. Again, please note the standard for the indoor water use has changed from 47 GPCD to 42. And the outdoor landscape efficiency factor, which is applied to outdoor garden water use, that has changed from 0.8 or 80% to 0.55 or 55%. So you can see that that has a dramatic effect on what our projected compliance reduction would be, which is, in this case, 43%. As noted, the actual reduction targets for each of the retailers may change over time because of adjustments, but nonetheless, we're anticipating a large reduction requirement. So, How is the City of Glendora Water going to reach compliance? First, by reducing residential outdoor water use. This is where our program, like the WaterWise survey program, where I mentioned before, fixing leaks and upgrading the irrigations, that can address existing outdoor landscapes that aren't tearing anything out. They just want to upgrade what they have. That's a great program to take advantage of. The turf removal program through MWD is at $4 a square foot. That's really a good price point for that type of program. So if residents want to take advantage of that, that will help establish new low water using gardens. Even putting a pool cover on will help reduce water on existing landscapes. We also do enforce the model water efficient landscape ordinance. So any new landscapes that are being installed go through our plan check process, and they're built to the new standard as well. Second, by supporting our commercial, industrial, and institutional properties and saving water, we're also addressing not only what is required by the regulation in terms of offering best management practices, but it also helps set a benchmark for water use by different CII categories. So we're going through the process of classifying meters and going out and looking at what type of CII, is it a business, is it a car wash, is it food service? Those all get classified and they act as a benchmark for, and that helps us also inform the type of programming that we'll have as part of the Community Water Hero program. So our Community Water Hero program is set up for different aspects of commercial water use, and it aligns with the reclassification and the BMP requirements of the urban water use objective legislation. The city's already funded the water use efficiency surveys for the local golf course and for all the public schools. And so now we're connecting these customers with regional programs that may help fund their water efficiency upgrades. We're also working with SoCalGas to develop a program that's specific to schools. And so you'll be hearing about that hopefully in the next meeting. I'll have more details on that, but we're in the process of working with SoCalGas like we have before. But this is really helping us tailor to our CII properties that really could use the help and assistance in saving water. And finally, by addressing water loss, which is currently estimated to be about 18% of actual water use for fiscal year 23-24. While the water loss standard is part of the urban water use objective, it's also a separate standard that comes from 2015 legislation, Senate Bill 555. Compliance for this can be enforced individually outside of the urban water use objective, unlike other standards within this framework, and that begins in 2028. This slide shows the water loss reduction requirements for local suppliers by 2028 based on that legislation I just referenced. These are calculated by entering supplier audit data into a state water board economic model. And again, the actual reduction targets for each retailer may change over time because of the adjustments made to their submitted data and changes to their water loss audits. But you can see that Glendora has a very large water loss reduction requirement by 2028. Compliance will require continued infrastructure improvements as well as leak detection and reduction services that we're currently performing. But it may also require compliance planning, which assesses the impacts of submitting parameter adjustments using utility-specific data, sorry about that, which differs from the general assumptions of the state model. So some agencies will enlist the services of like a third-party water loss specialist vendor to help them analyze what they can do in terms of the data that they've submitted, how that impacts the standard requirement that these reductions are based on. In addition, we may be able to actually apply for MAP funding to fund a third-party vendor to help us with this water loss auditing process. And finally, upcoming events. We, of course, have Earth Day this Saturday. We are putting on 2 workshops, one on Water 101, where does water come from when you turn on at the tap in Glendora. I have a whole class on that, and then one on turf conversion. On May 31st, we'll be holding a class on California-friendly plant material, and that'll be here at the library. And in June, as part of our Summer Discovery Challenge, we'll be doing our class for kids on repotting and caring for succulents. That concludes my report.
Great. Good report, Russell.
Thank you.
Any questions, commissioners?
Yeah. All right, so these targets that are being levied on us are at the city level, I assume, and it's gallons per capita in the city. Is that the target metric that we're using?
Yeah, it's for our entire service area.
Yeah.
So any urban water retail supplier, it does kind of break down to a GPCD. But there are a number of different factors in that that I mentioned in there.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm really saying is it's not necessarily just like the indoor water use reduction. That landscape factor has a big impact on the total water budget for the service area. It's not the water budget isn't specific to individuals. It's
Right.
specific to the entire service area.
Okay, so this land use, land cover factor, is that one reason Glendora's target is so high for a reduction? Because we have lots of plant life or something like that?
Right. So the state has supplied a landscape area measurement data that basically quantifies how much irrigable space
Yeah.
is in Glendora, and then applies the formula to that amount of square footage. And that formula is much lower than our current water use on those irrigable areas. And so, yes, residential outdoor water use is a big reason why we're over that reduction target.
Okay. So Laverne, for example, has a much lower reduction target because they're more cement or something like that. I'm trying to figure out why there's such a discrepancy between, on a per capita basis, between Laverne, which is right next door, and Glendora.
Well, there could be different reasons for that in terms of, like, if you look at Claremont, for example, they have a very low, relatively low compared to us, but they've had a turf removal program for years, and so, you know, it is a little tricky to compare apples to apples.
Yeah, you had mentioned that.
And so do I have an answer why Laverne's is lower than ours? I don't. But I do think that, you know, the major impact that is affecting our reduction target is outdoor water use.
All right, have we done, I mean, we have data on leaks, I know from the data we collect from the water department. So we have some sense of where our problems are arising. And we have these programs going on. So do we have a projection about how much more of the program needs to happen in order to meet our target? Because we're still a ways away from that. A few years from now, it's even going to be more aggressive. And then the last question is, what happens to us if we don't meet the target? I mean, do we get fined in some way for it, or what?
Right. So how long, the programs that we're setting up, so for example, with WaterWise, that's a 5-year contract that's renewed every year. The Metropolitan program kind of runs until they run out of money. However, considering the amount of water savings in those programs, I don't know that I would anticipate them going away anytime soon. There could be funding issues that we don't foresee, but we are, trying to get ahead of it now. And by partnering with them, we kind of are able to offer our customers the best deal in terms of taking advantage of the turf replacement program. What would happen if we don't meet the targets? We could be fined starting 2027. We could be fined as a water supplier for not meeting the targets. Now, because we have a higher projection for 2040, that's over 30%, we may qualify for the alternative compliance pathway. And what that essentially says is that as long as the baseline that you set in 24 to 26, as long as you're reducing 2% of that every year, you would be deemed in compliance, and so we wouldn't be fined. So there is a pathway to complying that isn't as dramatic as like
Yeah.
40%, in 1 year type.
Now, that would be helpful, obviously. Well, I wouldn't be on the water board if I wasn't in favor of conserving water, and particularly in light of climate change and the things that are going on around us. But, I was just looking at the numbers, and I'd say, that looks like we're a long ways from where they're asking us to get to. And just thinking out loud, how are we going to actually do that? We're getting people to replace turf. I could probably stand to do that myself, but my yard has a very small grass area, and it's mostly deserty kind of landscaping. But we'd really have to ramp that up a fair amount to meet these really aggressive targets, it seems to me. So I don't expect you to have the answers to all these things. I just thought I'd ask the questions. But thank you.
Thank you. A couple things, but going on what the commissioner was just asking. So my question on those slides about the water use reduction and water loss reduction isn't necessarily to compare one city to the other, but my thought was, why was there such a wide spread in some that have to reduce single digits and ours was many double digits? And I heard all the disclaimers and all that about how those numbers could be compiled, but if you have somebody that only has to reduce 3 and we're at 28 to 40 or whatever it was, why such a big difference? Any idea?
So historically, there may have been water conservation efforts that were greater in the past. And when we had SBX 77 that required a 20% reduction kind of across the board, that didn't necessarily take into account that some urban retail water suppliers already were reaching sort of like their water conservation goals and limits. And so for them to reduce another 20%, that's kind of how this legislation began to develop, was they wanted to set a series of standards that maybe could be equitably applied across all urban retail suppliers with the intent of honoring those that have already done a lot of water conservation. Their reduction targets would be much lower. And I think that is generally what you would see with when you look throughout the state. There are adjustments and, access to potable water reuse, things that we don't have, or variances that are going to change those numbers and actually make them lower for each community. So it is like an ongoing process. The numbers will change every year. In fact, we'll have numbers for this fiscal year in July, and we'll bring that to you, and I would imagine to City Council as well, to get a sense of where, right now, we know where we're starting. We know what the projections are, but we also are working to make those adjustments, get that approved by the State Water Board, and actually get a more realistic sense of what our reduction targets are.
Okay, thank you. So I joined the commission, I think it was in 2025. I can't believe it's been 3 years already. So before my time, going with what you just said about some of these other cities having, conservation efforts, did the city of Glendora not, was the city of Glendora not as aggressive or did not have programs like that, or didn't promote those programs as much in prior years? And I don't know what time frame to say prior years, but was the city just not actively doing that in the last 10 or 20 years, I guess? I don't know what time frame to reference, but.
I think one of the things that's important to look at, it, like Russell was talking about, these numbers are likely to change for us as we get a little bit more data. The other thing that we battle with really is how the city was developed and where we are, right? So our geography, our temperatures, especially summertime, and the fact that we have a lot of single-family development and larger lots really puts us as a target for some of these reductions. When you have other cities that perhaps have a higher density level, maybe have more townhouses, condos, or apartments, or multifamily like that, they don't have the larger lots, they don't have the open space that we do, they're in a different category as far as what those reductions are going to be. So there's some things that just happened as a result of the way Glendora was developed and the way we kind of built out through the years. It has a big impact, and it has a little bit more of a target on us. Again, we're in a very dry area, we get some very high temperatures, and we have large lots, lots of single families. So for us, that's one of those things that made it a larger target. Nothing that any of us did purposefully. Post-World War II, as that sprawl started to go, this was a very typical development type. A lot of the cities closer into Los Angeles have really increased their density. We've been a little bit slower in that. So I would say from my perspective, that is probably one of the biggest things that's helped set those levels where they need to be. We'll see what the actuals are. Again, some of these are some estimates, but a lot of it just has to do with kind of how we came about as a city and the way we're built out.
That's a good point. And some of those lots in those cities closer to, like you said, even with the single family, they're just much smaller, much smaller. So yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for, I didn't think of it that way. You said the May 13th, I got a couple things here. I'll try to run through it really quick. You said the May 13th city council meetings where they're going to announce the art winners?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try to attend that. Put it on the calendar. Water-wise, I didn't see the chart that was on here that was on the agenda, but I think, did I see it right that in March there was 12 or 17 water-wise applications or something like that? I didn't see it in the presentation here, but it was in the agenda.
Right. Right, we have 25, yes, okay, so. 22 violations. We have 25
Glad he has
water
curb
use.
notes over here.
Yeah, thank you. So we have listed 25 water use efficiency surveys, but what's a little bit different this year is that the water use efficiency surveys that are for residential properties are actually, they go through Metropolitan first and then go to WaterWise, and so our data is dependent on what we get from Metropolitan, which is different than in years prior where everything went through us. But because WaterWise has the contract with Metropolitan Water District to perform residential surveys, for us, it made more sense to structure our contract to have Metropolitan build for those as well. But we have to wait for their data to get
So is
here.
that why all those showed up as March, I guess, versus
Right.
probably from prior months? You just got the data in March, I assume?
Exactly.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I thought that was good. My neighbor the other day, or last week, I saw my neighbor had them there. And yesterday I was walking my dog around the corner and I saw him there as well. He was fixing some plumbing, some landscape plumbing. I thought that was kind of cool. So I wrote it down. So I'm committing myself to calling them for my place. But I was excited. It was kind of the first time I've seen him in my neighborhood, or at least that I noticed. And I saw him twice within a week. So I had to ask you about the water loss. Maybe a silly question here. how do you calculate that? How do you calculate water loss, especially like for residential? I mean, how?
So when we're referring to the regulations and the water loss
Right.
standards, we're referring only to the system water loss,
Oh,
not,
okay, okay.
not behind the meter.
Oh, gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
So, and that is calculated, there's a state economic model that when you input your information from, every every year, we submit a water loss audit. And then that data is used to generate what your standard should be in terms of gallons of water loss per connection per day. And it's something that has been, done historically for a number of years. It's only sort of recently that it's been included now in water conservation regulations, which is why I'm here bringing it up today. But it's a very complex model, and though the parameters that go into that. That's typically where having expertise in that water loss arena, so to speak, is helpful because we may be able to look at the data that we have or look at, is there a parameter like what's the condition of our infrastructure? Can we apply a parameter adjustment to this model to ask for a more reasonable reduction requirement? And that's typically where you'll see outside vendors that are specialists in this come in to help with that process because it's a very complex process. But there is a model that the state uses to generate all of those numbers. It's available. It's public data. It's actually on the slide on the water loss. And I'm happy to send you the standards. You can see everyone who's reported. And those numbers come from the annual water loss audit that is submitted every year.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you for your presentation. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, nice report, Russell. Have a motion to receive and file the Water Conservation Program update.
Motion.
It's been moved by Pat, seconded by David. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the item number 4 is the fiscal year 24-25 water distribution update for the third quarter. And Jason Forsberg, our water utility supervisor, is going to make the presentation. And I'm sure he's going to tell us all about water losses.
Absolutely. All right. Good evening, Chair and fellow commissioners. All right. So I'll be presenting today on the water distribution update for the third quarter, fiscal year 24-25. We'll start with leak history comparison from 23-24 versus 24-25. So January, we have in green, that'll be for 23-24, and then in orange will be 24-25. So January, 37 compared to 21 for 24-25. February, we evened out 23-23. And then March, a total of 34 for 23-24, and then 20 for 24-25. So as David Thomas approached me earlier today, the numbers are looking better, but unfortunately they look better on the screen, but technically not out in our system. The leaks that we are seeing are more complex than past leaks, and we'll actually go over an emergency project that we have been working on this past third quarter. But although the numbers are going down as far as leaks, they are more complex, and we're seeing a lot more damage to some of the water pipe itself when we're out there. So this is one of the complex projects that we've actually been working on, the Lone Hill Emergency Water Project. So this is just a little bit of background information. So on December 30th, we got the initial call for surfacing water at 1855 West Foothill. And that's right at Foothill and Lone Hill, just north, along the wash right there. And I'll provide a map of the area in question. January 29th, the leak was identified on the 16-inch transmission line. After the leak was identified, the transmission line was isolated for further inspection. It impacted residents at 1855, 1901 West Foothill, and 309 North Lone Hill. So we were able to highline and provide temporary water services for those 3 residents. On February 3rd, the line was video inspected, and from that video inspection, we concluded that the line was in poor condition, and contributing to the leak itself, there was an improperly abandoned lateral on the 16-inch water line. So the photo on the left, that's actually in an abandoned riveted line from the early 1900s before the installation of the current line out there that's from 1930. So that's where the water was popping up from and traveling through at the 1855 residence. The photo on the right is the 16-inch transmission line. It's a little hard to see, but right in the center of that that main, you'll see a lateral coming off of there, and that was improperly abandoned at some point in the 90s when they did a relining process of the line, and that's where the initial leak was found using leak detection equipment. So as a result, our main option moving forward was to reline a portion of the 16-inch line. Due to the location of that 16-inch line running through the hillside, running through several properties, and near existing housing. So we didn't want to cause any more property damage than there already was because of the initial leak. So this was the safest option. And this is actually a sample of the liner, if you guys wanted to. So that's a poly liner with Kevlar as well. So in the photos, this was on April 2nd. We were able to have a team come down from Arizona. They're a very specialized contractor. They flew in that morning actually to help us out, and they relined about 600 linear feet of the 16-inch transmission line. So in this photo, this is part of the air pressure test that they do. So they'll inflate the line, and then they'll actually do a hydrostatic or a pressure test on the line itself to make sure that there aren't any rips or tears on it. So location of the emergency repair. So on the photo, if you can see, there's a faint blue line running through several properties right there. That's the 16-inch line from that was installed in 1930. So you can see that our main challenges were definitely the terrain, and we just did not know where that water was coming from. So as part of this project, when we isolated a section of that line, we had to relocate 3 water services, one for 1855, one for 1901 West Foothill, and then also for 309 North Lone Hill. We also relocated 2 fire hydrants, installed a brand new 16-inch valve off of Lone Hill, and also installed about 30 to 40 linear feet of new 16-inch ductile iron pipe for the tie-in off of Lone Hill. So here's a better overall picture of the main challenge that we face. So in red, you'll see the section of the 16-inch line that was relined. And then in blue is part of the section where we just replaced the 16-inch line with ductile iron. You can see on the left side of the screen, that first arrow. So that's where the water was popping up at. You can see the water main is not necessarily near that location. If you look to the right there where the blue meets the red, that's where the leak was. So it was about 300-400 feet away, and it was traveling through old abandoned irrigation lines. So prior to this water division invested in leak detection equipment, and we had just had our training that month. So we were able to utilize that leak detection equipment, and it put us within 6 inches on top of that leak. Otherwise, we would not have found that leak without that leak detection equipment. And that goes to our water distribution team who went out there and worked all day to set up the correlators and the leak detection to find that leak. So scope of the work, relining of 16-inch transmission line, which was approximately 600 linear feet. We replaced, so the initial scope was 100, but we were able to find good existing pipe already out there that did not need to be replaced. So we only had to replace about 40 linear feet and put in new ductile iron. Relocation and installation of 2 fire hydrants, one on the Foothill side, one on the Lone Hill side, installation of a new 16-inch valve on the Lone Hill side, and the relocation of 3 water services. Also, to add, the water division acquired some new equipment, and our newest acquisition is the valve truck. So this valve truck helps us for emergencies, especially when we have to perform shutdowns. This helps us be more efficient out there in the field while we're turning valves. This helps us with preventative maintenance, valve turning programs, flushing programs, and also meeting our regulatory compliance for the state for our valve and flushing program as well. So this is a state-of-the-art valve exercising machine, and it also has a little mini Vactor on there as well, which is the yellow tank right there. So that helps us clean out all the valve cans so they're operable and we can get to them in emergencies. Oh, and a quick update on the, go back to the emergency repair work on Lone Hill. So as of yesterday afternoon, the line is back in service and active. We had to wait about a week and a half to go through our public health protocols, testing, chlorination, more hydrostatic testing. So all of that was completed, and the tie-in was completed yesterday afternoon. And that's the end of my presentation. Any questions?
Questions, commissioners?
I do have a question. It's okay, I'll start. So on the photo where you showed where the leak was detected and where water was surfacing,
Yes,
that looked to be quite a distance.
it was, absolutely.
Why was that? Like, how does it happen like that?
So the reason why it happened like that is, so that area was an old avocado farm. So the existing line that was out there, that 16-inch, is from 1930. Yeah. So there were old irrigation lines coming off of that 16-inch line that were watering that area. So those were not necessarily properly abandoned to our current standards. So when it was leaking, where we found that leak, it was traveling through some of those old abandoned lines and resurfacing up at the top
I gotcha.
there. Yes.
So you installed 600 feet of this?
Correct, yes.
I'm assuming you have to join it at some point?
Yes.
How do you do that?
So,
I'm nerding out right now trying to...
Yeah, no, absolutely. So-
Waiting for this answer.
yeah, it gets a little technical. So there's special fittings that they'll put on, special flanges that will hold that in place and then connect the the existing or a new pipe into
You
place.
just pull it through from one end?
Yes. Yeah, it was actually, they made it look very easy. It's not easy, but they had a good group of guys out there to help
That would
us.
have been a good one for you to call me on.
I know, right?
You had called me once before in my neighborhood when they were replacing,
We did a couple services.
up
Yes.
to a residence, and that's when I saw the truck,
Yeah,
the rock-eating truck, or whatever you
Yep.
guys call it. I'm gonna call it the
The
rock-eating
Vactor.
truck, yeah.
yeah, the Vactor.
But that was pretty cool, but yeah, that would have been a good one to see. The what?
No, it was definitely, even for us, we were kind of amazed at how easy it went.
Yeah, yeah. I just have one other thing I was gonna say. So
Yes.
I got like really excited when I saw the chart on the leaks, and I was like, putting on my, I used to be in supply chain management back in the day, and I was
Yes.
like, oh, so there must have been a cost avoidance, not a cost savings, but a cost avoidance, because there's a difference. And I was like, oh, what's the cost avoidance of having so many fewer leaks? And then you burst my bubble.
There isn't, yes. Unfortunately,
They're more complex and more
And-
expensive, I assume.
yes, and we've made up just this past month for that inequality
Yikes.
of it, so that difference,
It is what it is. All right, thank you. Thank you.
absolutely.
David?
Yeah, if you say the leaks are getting more complex, is it because you're getting a lot of pinhole leaks along these old pipes?
Yeah, so right now in the past, that's a great point, Dave. So in the past, we were seeing more smaller pinhole leaks. Now we're seeing actual blowout. That's going to be at least 1 to 2 inch blowouts. And then once we get down to the main to expose it, then we're seeing more of the line blowout. So just recently, not this past weekend, but the weekend prior, just in probably a 50-foot section, we had 7 leaks pop up in 2 days.
So this new liner technology should help with that too, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think this was the best case scenario. It gets a little more complicated when you have laterals attached to the line itself. Luckily, this section was just one solid piece, so we didn't have to tap any new services off that lining section. So that made it a lot more easier to install.
And the last thing, how does that valve truck work? What does it do?
So, okay, so at the back of the valve truck itself, so near the end where you see that red and white tape right there and that black box, so that's the actual valve turning machine. So that thing pivots out with hydraulics, comes out, and then you set it over the valve can itself, expose the valve can, and then you drop down a valve key that's connected to the truck, and it'll basically exercise the valve.
Exercise the valve.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, a lot better than doing it by hand.
It is, yes, especially, yes.
That's amazing.
Some of those valves require, what, 100 turns or something, or?
Yeah, some of the larger ones, depending on the size
Yeah.
of the valve itself, yeah. It could,
Have you identified other areas where this technology may be employed?
for the lining itself,
Right, right.
yes, absolutely, we have, yes.
And it's pretty cost-effective then?
It's yes, I would agree with that statement. Instead of actually trying to go through and retrench a line running through several properties and hillsides, this is definitely an answer to that problem.
Yeah, you're basically just using the old pipe as a conduit and you're slipping right.
Correct. Yeah, like I said, the only tricky factor is when you have services and hydrant laterals tapped off of that. Then you have to open up more pits to expose the existing line, get in there, cut sections out, and reconnect and
Great.
and retap those services.
Okay, great. Great report, Jason. Oh, Dave, Pat's got another question.
Because you're
Yes.
making me nerd out again on all this. So when you have that, though, you're still able to use the liner, even though there's more work into it.
Yes,
when you have
correct.
service lines and so forth, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Is this something newer that you guys are doing?
So this is the first time we've ever used a lining like this in our system.
Okay.
Correct.
Is that something you guys, since we have so many old pipes and there's so many old leaks, and I know the
Yes.
CIP and the water increase, water rate increases was to fund retrofitting the system.
Yes.
Is that maybe the going plan, is to use that now instead of, at least where it applies, I guess, where?
Yeah, well, yeah, the main question is gonna be where is that line at, the size of the line, the material of the line, if we're talking just about a 6-inch steel line down Glendora Avenue with 50 services off of it, then it's probably not going to be the best option for us. But when you have something like the 16-inch transmission line running through a hillside with limited services off of it, this is the answer to that challenge. Absolutely.
So full replacements may still be needed, like you were saying. with
Oh,
the
absolutely,
signs.
yes. And this line will need to be addressed in the future.
Right.
This is, it's a little more than a temporary repair, but, it'll get us through definitely the next years. So,
This?
yeah, so that has a 50-year,
That's what I was.
yeah, that has a 50-year.
Okay.
But
So then is the plan to replace some of these old lines? Is the plan to proactively go do that to avoid leaks in the future, or are you waiting for leaks to?
that's
happen
something
and
that we're
fight, or
working,
how does-
yeah, we're working on a plan
Yeah.
right now to set something up like that and address those issues.
Okay,
So
one
we
last
don't
question. What would be, I mean, generally speaking, the cost difference of going in and, let's say, a line where you can do many feet of that, hundreds of feet
Yes.
of that, versus replacing pipe? I'm guessing there's got to be some massive cost difference, right? I mean, is it?
Yeah, offhand, I don't have the exact
know how to
number,
quantify
but
that,
yeah,
yeah, but it's-
but this did save money overall for this specific project. Not every project is going to be that way,
Right, okay.
unfortunately, but yes.
Interesting. All right, good, thank you.
All right. What is your goal for water loss?
For water loss?
Yeah.
That's a good question. It's definitely moving projects forward like this that we did. We've actually, I think in the last few months, we've put together our 3 to 5 year plan for CIPs, which is going to be key. So it's investing in the water infrastructure, laying new pipe down, replacing services, and that's all going to be done through CIPs.
Yeah. I thought for a residential retail operation, it was something less than 10%
For
for water loss.
the,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Have a motion to receive and file the 24-25 water distribution update.
Yeah, motion.
It's been moved by Pat, seconded by David. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. for
Passed
the presentation.
unanimous.
yes, thank
Thanks,
you guys.
Jason. Good job. All right, moving on to item number 5, water supply outlook. Water Division Manager Dale Wirt's going to give us a report.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Good.
Talked about water loss. Now we're going to talk about water supply. See where we're at. All right. This is the local water supply outlook for third quarter of the fiscal year. Glendora water supply outlook. Glendora has received at the water yard 10.8 inches of rainwater during this first half of the water year. There's been no change since the staff report went out. Our typical water years from October 1st through September 30th of the following year, our annual average rainfall is about 20 inches. The city of Glendora received 10.25 inches of rainfall January through March. This is a significant decrease from the about 22 and a half inches received for the same time period in 2024. And again, this rain measurement is taken at the city's water yard. This is the rainfall in inches. In green is 2023, 2024. And orange is 2024 and 2025 in the same periods. So October of those years were pretty much the same. November of 2023, slightly more. December, you can see a big jump between now and the previous years. Again, you can see the markers as they go through January through March. Significant amounts of more rain during the 2023-2024 period versus now. And the totals at the end for the 2023-2024, we're at almost 26 inches at 25.93 inches. And for the current fiscal year, water year is 10.8 inches. Untreated import water deliveries. San Gabriel Valley Municipal was discharging out of USG3, currently releasing 250 CFS as of March 20th, 2025, and that is currently still ongoing. During February, Upper District didn't make any deliveries through USG3. Upper District plans to deliver about 10,500 acre feet. As of March 2025, 2,709 acre feet of that was delivered. Let's see. Three Valleys District plans to deliver a total of 35,000 acre feet. That comes from a Met banking account that we're trying to use this weather and time period to bring that in. As of February 28th, 2025, 8,271.1 acre feet was delivered in the letter agreement. And Three Valleys plans to start deliveries April 25th through PM 26, also at the San Dimas Spillway and Siphon. Next up is San Gabriel Valley Water District. During February 2025, San Gabriel District delivered 369 acre feet to the San Gabriel Canyon spreading grounds and Basin 1, and did not make any deliveries to the Beatty Canyon. During March 2025, San Gabriel doesn't plan to make any deliveries to the San Dimas Wash. During March of 2025, San Gabriel District plans to deliver 940 acre feet to the San Gabriel Canyon spreading grounds and about 160 feet to the San Gabriel Canyon Canal. And then San Gabriel District does not plan to make any deliveries to Beatty Canyon during March 2025. I did make a short note. I know I mentioned some volumes. Richard may be more privy. They're having issues with the golden mussel, which have you heard the coaguil mussel? So last meeting for our Basin Water Master that we had, I didn't have time to get it in here. I was going to put a short stint. They're looking at the possibility of having to shut down versus a couple projects as well. So they're really pushing the time gap of moving some of this raw water into there. You'll see in the next couple of slides when we look at the dams, San Gabriel is going to extend another clean out again this summer. So that one will be out of service, but USG is below that. However, in order late in summer to prepare, they're going to drop more. So it's going to be a fight to see how much water the river will take. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. Next report, there will be a small report on that mussel and what's kind of happening through the California aqueduct system. So there's Morris Dam. On the left is December of 2024, and on the right is April of 2025. Looking pretty good, both about the same height. They're keeping Morris full. For what I said just a minute ago, they do plan to take San Gabriel out again this summer. So there's San Gabriel Dam. Again, in December of 2024, you can see what they consider the islands. It separates the intake from the far west of that reservoir. There is a date error on this one. That is also April of 2025. On the right side, water level is much higher. There is some debris gathering along the west side of that dam. Let's see. USG3, same date, which was April 1st, 2025. Flowing at that time, I believe, around 1,250 CFS, and still delivering today. Was shut down for a brief period in March due to county's cleaning of the spreading grounds off the 605-210. Once they completed that, they restarted it. Snowpack, interesting subject. Snowpack in the Northern Sierra is about 118% of normal. As of April 13th, I went back and checked. It's only dropped 1%, still at 117% of normal. Snowpack along the Colorado River was about 87% as of April 1st. As of April 13th, it's have an increase up to 94%, which is a 7% increase due to some late storms. Storage on the Colorado system conditions. Lake Powell is about 32%, Lake Mead about 34%. That was as of April 1st. As of April 13th, there's been no change. They're both stable. Storage in the California system as of April 1st was about 83% 0.6% average. That is 17 of the state's key largest reservoirs. Currently, as of 13th, that has actually gone up to 86%, which is 2%, most likely some of the snow melt starting. California water supply allocation was raised and set to 40% as of March 2025, and maybe some outlooks of it being increased. San Gabriel Basin Key Well information. As of March 21st, 2025, the Baldwin Park Key Well groundwater elevation was 242.9 feet. On December 20th of 2024, the Key Well measured at 246.8 feet, a decrease of 3.9 feet over a 3-month period. Currently, April 18th, the Key Well measured 242.3, which is a decrease of another 0.6 feet. Its low record setting was on November 21st, 2018, measuring at 116.94 feet as a difference. Water production and treated water purchases. Well production in January, we produced 751.9 acre feet. In February, we produced 526.5 acre feet. In March, we produced 567.8 acre feet and purchased no water, treated water during that time. There's a graph of our well production. As you can see, in the prior fiscal year, 23-24, with a lot more rain we had, we produced slightly less amongst the 3 months, and we produced slightly more because of the drier conditions. So any change in weather changes production pretty quick. So that concludes my report.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Dale. Any questions?
I had one question about would you say the golden mussel
They
problem?
call it the golden mussel, yeah.
Yeah, what is that exactly?
So it's an Asian mussel. So you've had mussels before.
Yeah,
Very small. I don't, like I said, I'll prepare more of a detailed report for you guys next time. But in a square foot, you'll find several thousand.
Oh, wow.
And very interesting. I will try to include some details I didn't know. But they're detecting it further and further down. It was up near the Bay Delta area. They first found it. That's where it entered, they think, from ships coming across. When the bilge pumps spill back out, it makes its way down the canals and lakes and then into our aqueduct. And so it started slowly growing, but they're finding it pretty close up to the LA area where it could be entering some of our area. And what they're finding is, for a short answer, is some of the DNA. So it's kind of interesting on how they do some of this testing. But I'll have more of that report for you, and any changes that may cause or will cause to our deliveries, I'll let you guys know.
Very, very aggressive mussel.
Yeah, so that affects our water supply, because they have to control?
That's
the
a state
amount?
water project. They import water coming in from Northern California into Southern California.
So
Okay,
screening on your pumps, any type of orifice that it has to go
Yeah.
through, those mussels start to develop. It causes that efficiency. Some of the pumps become so impacted by them that they'll shut them down, take them out of service. And the other part of that is the power. So all the turbines and everything get affected by that too.
gee,
Is it a water quality issue or more just the operation?
Not so much. In lakes, they can cause excessive algae blooms, but that's an open surface reservoir. They can kind of deal with that. And they've dealt with other mussels before. These are slightly different. Some of the same techniques don't work as well on these. And again, I apologize. I'll provide more information and do a better report on that for you guys. Maybe even a separate one so you guys could read it.
You had said the San Gabriel Dam was going to be down over the summer?
Yeah, they're still dredging.
Dredging? Okay.
And after this fire here, they have in budget one more summer. As you know, we had other fires in the area, so LA County has got a budget, and they're looking at Eaton Canyon for sure. Some of the other canyons up in Sierra Madre that need some additional work. So 2025 for sure. They don't know about 2026 because they've just made budgetary. They may need to move to some of these other areas. But they said, I think it was 30% more before they would be complete. They're hoping that the summer, dry summer will give them that opportunity.
Just one last question, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, but any idea of the outlook for the rest of the year, water-wise? I mean, I know nobody can
Without
say what's going to happen in
without the
December. yet, but-
caveat of things I can't control,
Yeah.
it doesn't look too bad to continually have this raw water deliveries come in. That would be very extremely helpful to the basin. The basin generally, due to drier, is probably going to decline a little bit more than it did over the last year period. But in most drier years, we're not moving water right now. It's already done. So we're consistently moving water, so better outlook on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think the water year looks very good up until the golden mussel. And that could basically just shut everything down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I think we're in pretty good shape.
Okay. I have some agricultural customers up in the Central Valley, and their season starts in July, and they're all predicting, good years based on, information they have. So we're not seeing major drought conditions like several years ago. You're not seeing anything like that, at least that's forecasted
I haven't
as
been
far as we
told.
know.
I don't have that.
Yeah.
One question.
Sure.
PM 26, do you know how much water Three Valleys is going to deliver into the spreading grounds there?
No, I didn't get that number, but what I'll do is I'll take that note and I'll get it back to you.
Yeah, it would be beneficial for the city if they would put the water there, and then we could monitor the water levels in the wells there at the city yard. And
Yep,
see
2 and
what
13, that would
benefit,
be,
yeah.
no problem.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thanks report, Dale.
You're welcome.
Could I have a motion to receive and file the water supply outlook? Motion made by David, seconded by Pat. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Passed unanimous. Yeah. All right, that takes us to new business. Item number 6, I have an update on the Water Division 2-year budget for fiscal year 25-26 and 26-27. And Management Analyst Ivy Gonzalez is going to give us a report.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Tonight I'll be presenting an update on the Water Division's proposed 2-year budget for fiscal 2025-26 and 26-27. This evening, I will briefly discuss the Water Operations Fund pertaining to revenue, operations, capital projects, and final recommendations. The operating revenue and expenses assist with the daily operation of the water system that includes routine maintenance, repairs, staffing, and related costs to providing drinking water to the community. The expenses cover treatment, distribution, customer service, and other essential services. In addition, these funds assist with supporting programs aimed at water conservation and maintaining high-quality water. These operational funds are aimed at ensuring the system runs smoothly and give staff the ability to address the repairs quickly. The Capital Projects Fund is primarily used for large-scale, long-term infrastructure projects. These projects are aimed at improving the city's water system, tackling projects such as replacing outdated pipes, upgrading treatment facilities, and upgrading or building new water storage tanks. The funding also covers the planning, design, and construction phases of these projects. At this time, staff is not aware of how tariffs could impact these projections. This budget update for Water Division highlights how the city is proposing to allocate resources to ensure water systems continue to operate smoothly and efficiently, meeting the needs of the community. Water commissioners are encouraged to watch or attend the June council meeting if you have any questions or concerns regarding the proposed budget. Staff would also like to mention that no substantial changes have been made and the Water Division is not operating at a deficit. Staff recommends to receive and file the proposed 2-year budget update and capital improvement program.
Great. Thanks, report. Nice
you.
report, Ivy.
Thank you.
Questions, Pat?
I kind of did. Can you go back to those numbers, the proposed and the operating, I think it's one? Okay, I did see that, okay. For 24-25, the expenses were more than revenue, but I see that you guys have that the other way. And then on the next screen, the CIP, I think we talked about at the last meeting that we used to have the city engineer come and give status on some of these? And, I mean, I don't think we really need the one on year 5, 29, 30 necessarily, but is it possible to get, I mean, just on some of the most active ones in the future, just a brief status on those?
Absolutely. So at the July meeting, we can do that. The reason we haven't done it this year is these projects right now are primarily in design. So we've awarded contracts for the design, and once we get ready to go out to bid, we'll have a little bit more to actually bring to you as far as an update. But the projects that you see there, the Colorado Water Street Improvement, Cypress Water Street Improvement, and the Glendora Avenue Water Street Improvement are all in design right now. We've awarded those for design. So next year, most likely, a number of those will start into the construction side. Glendora is about 18 months worth of design, maybe a little bit more, so that's a couple of years out, you can see. But while they're on the list and while they're active, they're not actually active projects that you're going to see out in the field for a little bit longer yet.
Okay, or at the very least, just add a column to this screen with whatever that brief status is?
Yeah, we could, no, we had, again, we planned on coming back in July with that update. We hopefully have a little bit more and be a little bit into the design process. We'll be able to give you a little bit more detail on those.
Okay, and I did have one last question. So going back to the expenses and the operating revenue, remind me again, I'm sure we talked about this in the past. So is the CIP budget in that operating expense category, or is that separate from that?
So we have set up the CIP 5 years separate from what you're seeing in some of these. Ivy, do you know if the CIP was included in the expenses in this line item here or not? I don't remember. I don't believe that it was. We've identified, I believe, 30 million over the next 5 years for CIP work, but I'm not exactly sure how it was called out in this slide. One of the things I will point out with the numbers that you're seeing here, we are still finishing up the existing fiscal year and working on the projections for the next couple of years. While we believe these numbers are reasonably close, finance is still, and our finance director is still working on that, and that's why we said in June, when he makes that presentation to the city council, we'll have the actual solid numbers. This is just our best revenue projections at this point and our expense projections.
And the reason I'm asking this question is because when I look at the revenues, or the proposed budget revenues are just a little bit more than the expenses. So where's the funding for the CIP projects coming from?
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm sure we talked about this in the past, but if you could just remind me.
yeah. So and we can certainly go back. I can get you that information in a little bit more detail. So I'd be happy to do that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ivy.
David, do you have anything? I guess the only question I have is going back to that 5-year CIP, are we on track with rate increases? Or are
Yes.
we going to have to make another recommendation to the city council regarding rate increases?
At this point, no. And that's one of the things we've been very careful of as we set the budget to make sure that we don't, I mean, we could obviously spend significantly more if we wanted to from a CIP perspective, but we're wanting to make sure that we're staying within those rate projections from the last rate study. So we are being careful with that to make sure we're staying within our allotted budget.
Okay, good. All right, thanks. Great report, Ivy.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, could I have a motion to receive and file the update of the proposed 2-year budget and capital improvement program for fiscal years 25, 26, 26, 27?
Sure, motion.
Motion's made by Pat, seconded by David. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passed unanimously. Okay. Great job, guys. Final item is the board staff closing comments. Anybody, commissioners, have any comments? No?
Good presentations all the way around. I like to see all the conservation. The new employee, Paul, did I get the name right? God, I'm horrible with names, and I remember Paul, so that's a good thing. Is he going to be taking over that chair eventually, or?
Well, he just might.
You're not
actually,
giving
yes.
it up?
No, I'd be happy to sit where Paul is and let him come over here. That would most likely be the shift, yeah.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
yep.
And then as far as, I told you I was horrible with names, the gentleman that left.
Jake.
Mike Holmes.
No,
Oh,
Jake.
Jake.
Yeah. Jake. I think it was, wasn't it you, Dale, and him that were splitting duties or something like
Yes.
that? So what are you guys going to do?
We are
meantime?
working to get that recruitment going as quick as we
Okay.
possibly can to
So
refill that position.
still have
Yes,
the two
absolutely.
positions? Okay,
Yep.
but you're gonna take it off right now, right?
We're more
more than capable, so I trust the guy.
Good. All right, thank you.
All right, staff, any closing comments?
Don't forget Earth Day Saturday, rain or shine.
No, it's supposed to rain, 50% chance.
We'll be there.
Okay, great. All right, with that, great meeting, and we'll be adjourned at 7:21. Thanks, everybody.